Hello, my name is Chauncey Garrett, and my topic of discussion is collective identity and the burden of acting white in Black history, community, and education, written by John U. Ogbu. The article discusses how African Americans have transitioned their behaviors over time, including their language through religion and culture. The Emancipation era, taking on certain mannerisms, and in the present time, white African Americans have transitioned from acting how whites think they should, to taking on their own ways of how they believe they should behave, to acting both black and white, depending on the situation in order to be successful. According to Ogbu, the expectations of conformity led to instrumental discrimination, social discrimination, and expressive discrimination, as well as intellectual denigration. The act of conformity led to instrumental discrimination because slaves were prevented from participating in political, economic, and other opportunities that were available to whites. Conformity led to social discrimination because slaves were made to take on the roles of house slaves and nannies, and they were only allowed to address whites by what their owners thought appropriate. These names included Massa and Mrs. Conformity also led to expressive discrimination because slaves were made to give up their African culture for Christianity. They were also made to give up their own language for English, which was that of their owners. This was to prevent secretive rebellion against those owners. Intellectual denigration was felt because slaves were not allowed to read or learn. Instead, they were subjected to hard labor on the plantations in which they lived. This gave whites the impression that they were intellectually superior to blacks. All of these points increased the feel of blacks that they were that of a separate people among whites. During the time of slavery, blacks participated in these acts out of fear of being punished through whippings and even death by lynching. Ogbu expressed the theory that there were those who believed that their chances of success in education, employment in the corporate economy, and in being socially accepted by white people would be better if they abandoned black frames of reference and emulated white people. This is called cultural and linguistic assimilation. Techniques discussed by Ogbu in which this group of people chose to assimilate include changing their appearance. This involves straightening their hair due to the stereotype that black hair was considered bad, bleaching their skin to lighten complexion, and pinching their nose to make them pointier rather than flat. These blacks also went to the extent of taking lessons in proper English in order to speak more like whites, choosing to surround themselves with the latter and isolating themselves from other blacks. Most commonly known as code switching, other African Americans chose to behave according to their surroundings. Code switching is defined by Wikipedia as the occasional use of switching dialects, styles, or registers, such as that practiced by speakers of African American vernacular English as they move from less formal to more formal settings. These people were able to behave as themselves around those in their own community. However, when in a more public setting, their behaviors were more so like those of white people. There was another group of people who knew the importance of the use of proper English. However, they felt that regardless of their attempts to do so, they would still have the dialect of a black person. These people believed that the obstacles faced by being black was strictly racial and not because they did not conform to acting white. Others who resisted taking on behaviors of acting white were afraid that this would lead to losing their blackness. They felt that conformity to what whites see as acceptable meant to agree that the white race was in fact superior to the black race. The last group of people are those who were so engulfed in their own culture that they were unable to act white, not because they didn't want to, but they simply didn't know how. There is a significant difference between the psychological being and mentality of those who succeed on a much higher level than those who choose not to reach for that success in education in fear of others thinking they are acting white. Although the ways of dealing or coping with the pressures of acting white have changed, this has been an affliction from the time that slaves were brought to this country from Africa to present day. This not only affects our culture, but also has a great impact on the future of our people.